As the gospel was being read, I thought of the times that Jesus appeared to the disciples after the resurrection. He appeared to Thomas, or he appeared to all the disciples, but I'm thinking of three particular things. Appeared to Thomas, appeared to the two disciples, and then to Peter in this last reading. And what struck me was the two disciples on the road to Emmaus. Ignorance. They had no idea it was Jesus. Thomas. We focus on doubting Thomas because he said, unless I see the print in his hands and the wound in his side, I will not believe. And Jesus said, come here, Thomas. And then Peter, which we read just a while ago. We tend to emphasize the negatives, like beware of doubt. But what I see in each of those three instances, in ignorance, in doubt, and in shame, Jesus showed up to bring love in each one of those cases. Interesting to me. Some of you may have seen the Dirty Harry movies with Clint Eastwood, and each one of those movies had a catchphrase in it that was repeated more than once. For instance, in the first of the series, he would say, go ahead, make my day. In another one, he said, are you feeling lucky? And in Magnum Force, he said, every man's got to know his limitations. And that's always stuck with me. Every man's got to know his limitations. Most of us probably go through life continually coming up against our limitations. I know now my mind still thinks I can do in 8 hours what I used to do. But now it takes me 8 hours just to plan on doing what I used to get done in 8 hours. Now, I loved the game of racquetball, which I learned in 1976 up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And so I got to where I was playing, and I entered an in-house tournament there at the Y, and Harrisburg had a big Y. But I won my division, which moved me from rank rookie to a B-class player. I moved to Jonesboro, Arkansas in 1986 and joined the Y there, and I've continued playing racquetball. And there was a tournament there that they had. It was a round-robin tournament. And again, I won my division, which moved me up to an A-class player. Well, I thought I was super stud. I was getting it on. I could play that game. Well, I got invited down to Memphis to go play a game of racquetball, and I thought it'd be fun. I couldn't get on the court with the guy. I had never seen a ball move that fast and at such angles. I was grotesquely introduced to my limitations. There's always something out there that's going to do that. And although it wasn't the game of racquetball which brought Peter face to face with his limitations, the same thing happened to him. We learn from the various incidents recorded in the Gospels that Peter was very much a self-assured man. From his perspective, he knew something about everything and was not ashamed to tell everybody that he knew it. In fact, I've given him the nickname of Peter Popoff because he was always popping off his mouth about something. He often spoke without thinking. Sometimes, though, that thought, that speech that came through without thought was actually from the Lord, a revelation from the Lord, as we see in Matthew chapter 16, verses 16 and 17. Jesus is asking them, who do you say that I am? And Peter replied, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered him, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. What came out of Peter's mouth at that time, I think, completely bypassed his brain. But Jesus intimated the fact that it was a revelation with his statement to Peter. It was a revelation that should have set Peter on a different course, but it didn't. And many of us have probably had somewhat the same experience. When we come to the place where we know and understand and believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, our life usually begins to take on different aspects. It begins to change in quite visible ways. But we are not necessarily changed completely in every aspect with that. We seem to keep up the same attitudes even though our activities may become different. Somewhere down the line, we will eventually come face to face with ourselves and who we really are. And that experience may be quite humiliating as it was for Peter. His self-assurance eventually brought him down. We remember the story from Matthew 26, verses 31 through 33. Jesus, just before he was arrested, said to them, "You will all fall away because of me this night." Peter answered, "Though they all fall away because of you, I will never fall away." Now we know the rest of the story. Jesus told Peter that before the rooster would crow, he would deny ever knowing Jesus. But Peter, even in that moment, thought he knew better than Jesus about what he would do. And he said, "Even if I must die with you, I will not deny you." And all the disciples said the same. Apparently, Peter was not yet aware of his limitations. We know that Peter was given 3 opportunities to admit to knowing Jesus, but he denied it each time. After the 3rd and final time, Peter had his moment of shame. And Peter remembered the saying of Jesus, "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly. He wept bitterly. I've had a couple of those times in my life in ministry when I've come face to face with the shame of my limitations in serving the Lord. That bitter weeping is a gut-wrenching experience for which there's no relief until the whole thing is spent. Then I had to live with the guilt of my failure until the Lord came to my rescue, just like he did for Peter. We read of this rescue in the Gospel of John. Some of the disciples had gone out fishing, and about daybreak they saw someone on the shore as they were coming in with their empty nets. They didn't know it was Jesus, even though he had appeared to them a couple of times before this. When they got out of the boat, they saw a fire with some fish on it, and Jesus served them breakfast. We'll pick the story up there. And when they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Feed my lambs." He said to him a second time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him the 3rd time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was grieved because he said to him the 3rd time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep." This is a touching story of the Lord's acceptance. His acceptance of Peter. Even after he denied him 3 times, he accepted Peter. Jesus asked Peter 3 times about his love, which is the same number of times that he had denied him. And the first question had a very enigmatic part in it for which we cannot find a satisfactory answer. He said, "Do you love me more than these?" These what? These other disciples? Do you love me more than these guys? That's certainly a possibility that Jesus meant. considering Peter's bold statement contradicting Jesus that they would all fall away. Peter answered him, though they all fall away because of you, I will never fall away. So Peter, do you love me more than these guys? You blew it. It is also possible that Jesus meant Peter's return to fishing, because that's where he found him right then. Do you love me more than these boats and nets? We probably encounter that question more than once in our life with the Lord. Do we love him more than what this life has to offer? Do we love him more than anything this world provides? But we don't really have an answer to this question that Jesus put forth. I find it significant that Peter avoided that part of the question altogether. It's comparative. Do you love me more? Lord, I love you. I'm not going any further than that. I love you. He didn't claim to love the Lord more than anything, not more than the others, not more than his profession, nothing. There was no boasting, no bragging, just a simple answer to the question of love. Now, why did Jesus ask this question? Doesn't he know all things? Again, just like we saw with Adam a couple of weeks ago, the Lord was asking the question for Peter's benefit, not his own. Peter had been boastful about his love and loyalty, but then got clobbered with a reality check. Jesus is helping Peter to recall that experience. We are often asked the question, not because the questioner needs an answer, but because we need to confront the question in our own heart. Peter needed to be faced with his bold claims about his endurance. So Jesus is questioning Peter about the depth of his love now. The first thing to notice is that Jesus asked Peter 3 times about his love for the Lord, and Peter responded with humility. However, in this case, our English language does not bring out the depth of this exchange between Jesus and Peter, because English only allows for the word love. Now, it's not an inaccurate translation, but it misses the nuances of the original language. We use the word love in a multitude of ways, many of which are not connected. For instance, I love my wife and I love pizza. 2 different loves. I love my family and I love my friends. 2 different loves. We only have the one word love, but Greek has 4. 1 for each of those instances that I listed. And each has a different application. Now, the first 2 times that Jesus asked Peter about his love, Jesus used the word agape. Agape is unconditional love, no strings attached. Doesn't matter what you do or don't do, love is there. But Peter responds both times with phileo. Phileo is love for a friend, brotherly love. He wasn't willing to admit that, Lord, I love you with no conditions. No matter what happens, I love you. He didn't go there anymore. He said, yes, Lord, you know that I love you like a friend. Now, Peter got upset the 3rd time Jesus questioned him. And the obvious reason to us is because of the persistence of Jesus and the fact that Peter had denied him 3 times. However, there's something hidden in this 3rd exchange. Jesus changed from Peter, do you agape me? To Peter, do you phileo me? He changed from Peter, do you love me with a total commitment and devotion? To Peter, can we be friends? Peter had come face to face with his arrogance and his limitations. He was no longer the same boastful person he was just a few days before. His lesson had been learned. He could not shake his guilt from having denied knowing the Lord, but Jesus wanted Peter to let go of that guilty feeling. He gave Peter a ministry that required a devotion to the Lord and his mission. He said, take care of my people. Another significant fact in this whole exchange is that Jesus never once mentioned Peter's denial. He never brought it up. On the night of his severest trial, test, and passion, Peter denied knowing Jesus, and the Lord did not hold it against him. Wow. He didn't hold it against him because that's just not the way the Lord works. In John chapter 3 and verse 17, we read, "For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him." Are we able to let go of our offenses that easily? The person who wrongs us, can we say, "Hey, let's be friends"? Jesus came to save, not to condemn, not to hold it up before us, what we've done, what we haven't done. His love and acceptance did more for Peter. It did more for Peter in that instance than judgment could ever have done. I remember one time, one of my brother's friends and my brother got into trouble. And when he came over one day afterwards, my mother asked John, said, "Did your dad do anything about that?" Because apparently it was something pretty severe. And John, I can remember saying, "Yes, but I wished he'd have whooped me." He just talked to him. Jesus talked to Peter, did not bring up his stuff, because no longer the self-centered, self-assured man that he was now qualified to be a shepherd of God's people, because he had come face to face with himself. The lesson here is for each and every one of us listening to this message. Maybe you have found yourself in a gulf of guilt for some reason, something you've done, something you didn't do, something you said, something you shouldn't have said. The Lord still wants you and still needs you. He's only asking one question, and it's not, "Why did you do it?" The question is, "Do you love me?" That's the question. That's the only question that matters. Do you love him? If so, then all is right with your world. Let go of the guilt and shame, because he doesn't need it, and neither do you. Amen.